The HDR toggle won't turn on HDR. My 24-inch 1080p monitor from AOC died, so I bought a 27-inch 2K mini LED monitor, also from AOC, which is considered the best budget HDR monitor according to ratings, as I wanted to try this alien technology myself. Yet, I got flabbergasted by this whatever you can call it. I'm not a chef myself, but I'm pretty sure you can call this murd. Now, why does it look like this, and should you get a HDR monitor yourself? Let's start with what exactly HDR is. High dynamic range is a technology for displaying content on your screen. It comes with an extended dynamic range, aka it handles lighting better and applies shadows more accurately. It uses higher peak luminance, lower black levels, and perceptually optimized functions to more accurately reproduce real-world lighting. Being currently the closest display technology we have to reproducing the way light behaves in the real world. Now, to understand why HDR doesn't work with Windows, with your PC, we have to look at its older sibling, SDR. Standard dynamic range is a technology mastered in the last decades for CRTs. In order for CDR to work properly, you need really low brightness, at around 100 nits, and the color gamut and the lighting quality it comes with are decent, as most content online is actually SDR. Imagine SDR and HDR being brothers. Genetically they share the same genes, but someone pulled the better traits, like nice height, blue eyes, defined jaw, and the other one got the, well, personality. On paper HDR sounds amazing, but in real life scenarios it's regretfully not that good. Firstly, your monitor has to be compatible with HDR. For that to happen, you really need a bright screen, 600 to 1000 nits or more. Then you need a wide color gamut like DCI-P3, and a screen with a lot of dimming zones, or an OLED, so that blooming won't happen. Blooming is a process happening while a display with little dimming zones tries to recreate two different kinds of lighting. A good example is a star on the sky. The sky is black, the star is white, and you obtain something like this. Now, let's say you get the perfect monitor. Nice resolution, 1000 nits brightness, and a lot of dimming zones. A monitor that theoretically should run HDR perfectly. After you turn on HDR on your monitor and you try to use it, you rapidly realize that it doesn't work that well with your Windows PC. The colors are washed out, some zones are too dark and some are too bright. Now you can fix this a little by calibrating your HDR monitor, which this is actually a must on Windows PCs. Windows replicates color really badly, and it tries to show you SDR when it can't use HDR, and instead of optimizing the image and making it look good, it just gets lost in the sauce. Now this happens because your PC, Windows, and most of the stuff you see on the internet was made for SDR. Windows can't magically invent HDR information, that just isn't there, so it has to convert SDR content into HDR content. Imagine you have an image and you try to make it bigger. Zooming in will make the colors unclear, yet when you shrink it back down, the colors and lighting get obviously clear. The same thing happens with Windows. It tries to expand the content you're seeing so you get better lighting, shadows, and colors. Windows can't yet accurately transform SDR into HDR, so it messes everything up. That's why you have to use the HDR option only when you know for a fact that you're going to enjoy some HDR content. Come on man, HDR is hella stressful. I have to somehow know every time I'm gonna watch HDR content, and toggle that on and off always. I think it's just easier to go on and get a non-compatible HDR monitor. I don't even think the difference between SDR and HDR is even that big. Bro, you're right to think that the HDR stuff is pretty stressful, but you're wrong to think it's not worth it. Firstly, you can easily toggle HDR on and off by pressing Windows plus Alt plus B. Don't confuse it with Ctrl plus Shift plus Windows plus B, which resets your graphics driver. Firstly, the color difference is quite massive, especially in AAA games. I haven't experienced a lot of HDR content, to be honest, but I definitely can see the massive difference when I turn it on some supported game. So is it worth it? If you got the money and you won't regret spending them, then go on and get an HDR compatible monitor. The experience you get from your monitor can increase quite a lot if you use it right, and it's very pleasant in games, being the main reason for HDR existence. As a side note, consoles usually mainly use HDR, so if you're planning to game a lot, especially on newer titles, go get that monitor. If you want to save up on your monitor, SDR content is completely viable, and the headache of turning HDR on and off will straight up be gone. The HDR technology is pretty much bottlenecked by everything except the actual monitor, so when the environment rejects you, you can't really do anything about that except trying to cope with it when it lets you to. HDR on a PC is not a feature, it's more of a chain reaction. In order to use HDR, you need your GPU, Windows, the app you're running, the content you're watching, and your monitor to interpret the HDR signal correctly. If one link thinks in SDR, the whole thing collapses back into SDR. HDR isn't inherently broken, it's actually everything that leads up to it. Damn, Mr.